Yes. Seems to be working. Could YouTube make this any more complicated? Hello. I don't know if anyone can see this, or anyone's watching this, or anyone can hear this. And if you are, and you can even send me a message telling me what's going on, because I don't know. I'll put on chat, so maybe that's going to work. Yes, that's going to work. Okay. Anyways, okay, I'm not really sure exactly what's going on, but I will try this and hopefully it works. And if not, I'll try it again. There seems to be a delay of a couple of seconds because I'm watching myself live and I see myself talking already. So, say something. Server reveal. I really hope this is working. I don't know. Okay, so welcome to live broadcast. The purpose of this broadcast is to answer any questions anyone has about the project, about myself. I actually don't like to be in front of the camera. This is very strange for me. I like to be behind the camera asking questions, and that's it. But I figure, you know, maybe I should do this once in a while, see if anyone has anything interesting to say. So now what I ask people to do in the video is to write their questions below. And I haven't looked at them purposely. I figure if I'm going to stop people on the streets and ask them questions without telling them before I start filming what the questions are, I should be put in the same place. So I'm going to read the questions live. Wish me luck. Okay, let's see. I'm going to do, hold on, I'm going to do top comments. So I'm going to go by how many likes there are and stuff like that. I'm very brave. Thank you. I don't think it's that brave. I really think anyone can do this. Please, I invite anybody to do this. You should be more careful showing your face. It would be a bad idea to become famous Israeli traveling the West Bank. Many will not see you as a filmmaker. True. I'm technically more Canadian than I am Israeli, so I'm kind of hoping that, you know, has some effect in there to explore and understand what's going on. And yes, I make sarcastic comments and I challenge people, and I do it on purpose because I think somebody has to do that for both sides. But I recognize, yeah, there are definitely some security issues for me going to the West Bank. Absolutely. Okay, so somebody reacted to it, whoever said that, blah blah, saying the world you both propaganda yesterday, BB refused. Okay, I don't care, but I don't really care about people, like what they're having to say, whatever they want to say, kind of gets on my nerves. French peace button. Okay, so he's commenting how BB refused the French peace button. Yes. I don't have any questions. I just want to thank you for all your work. Thank you. From Sohar Bennett. Very nice. Thank you. I like the positive ones. Please keep them coming. You can be critical. I have no problem, but just, you know, be somewhat positive. I'd like to know what would religious Jews, non-religious Jews, and Palestinians' parents would feel or say or do if their son or daughter would tell them that he or she is gay. Okay, I can't answer that question. But that wasn't the purpose of this. Is not to ask me questions or go ask other people. It's to ask me questions. How do people view you nationality-wise? I'm mostly asking this because in the "Do you hate Israelis Palestinians" video, the Israelis who you asked were pretty chill, but the Palestinians didn't seem to have a problem with saying to you that they hate Israelis, even though you had to have an interpreter with you, which I'm guessing makes you stand out as a non-Muslim and therefore more likely from Israel. Okay, so good question. In Israel, obviously I'm speaking Hebrew. Although at the beginning I didn't speak Hebrew, and the reason was, well, two reasons actually. First of all, I didn't know how to do subtitles. That took me a while to figure out. Second was, it wasn't so much that I didn't want them to think I was Israeli. It was more that if they thought I was a foreigner, I wanted them to explain things the way they would explain to a foreigner. That's the point, right? People are explaining things, and I have to keep going, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? And instead of doing that, the idea was to speak in English, and hopefully they would clue in that the slogans they're using, or they use these sort of code words that Israelis seem to always use, has no meaning. So I was hoping that by speaking English to them, they would not use those. What sort of happened was a lot of them didn't speak English well enough, or as well as I thought they could. So I just switched to Hebrew, and then I kind of got used to it, is really the reason. So when I'm asking these questions to Israelis, if I ask in English, sometimes they think I'm a foreigner. When I ask in Hebrew, they can hear my accent. They can tell I'm not native Israeli. And usually they assume that I have a reason. I have an agenda. Like I'm very far left wing. Usually is the idea, and it makes them really angry. So sometimes and I'll even ask it, and it's sort of I'll kind of go that direction on purpose because I want to sort of them to explain it the way they would explain to somebody who wasn't from here, and even get mad or emotional. So I mean, not so they're angry and yelling, but the way they would explain it properly. So Israelis obviously see me as sometimes one of them in some ways, and in other times they see me as a bit of a threat, that I'm far left wing, and that I'm, or maybe right wing, depending on what the question is, and that somehow I'm, questioning what it is that they do. When I'm in the West Bank, sadly, I don't speak Arabic, so I have to have an interpreter. So in the West Bank, people generally don't speak English, or they don't speak English very well, less than Israelis. So it was just much easier to have a translator. I tried a couple of times just on my own, and it really didn't work. I don't think they don't think I'm Israeli. I don't think, or I don't think they know what an Israeli looks like. I tell people I'm from Canada, which is both for my safety and for the safety of my interpreters. The translators actually sometimes insist on it because if I'm hurt or killed, the idea is that the Israeli army will take revenge, and on for that person. But if a Palestinian is seen with me and they're thought of as a traitor and they're killed, the Israelis aren't going to do anything. So it's in a sense a little bit more dangerous actually for them than it is for me. And there are many times I've actually looked at my interpreters and said, "Can I please tell them that I live on the other side?" And I kind of get like a look like, "No, you're not doing this," because it puts them in a position where they could be threatened. And I have been threatened, both me and my interpreters, a couple of times. But 95% of the time, most people are very happy to speak. They don't really even ask where I'm from or don't really care. They want to speak their mind. Even if they have things that some people, like this person, thinks are really angry, with a lot of hate. I'm just trying to look at the words what he used. They want their thoughts shared with the world. Angry and want the world to know what they think. So, okay. Somebody else asked me whether it was now or on May 22nd. Ramsey, hopefully you're watching. Hopefully somebody's watching this actually, now that do I have a way to even see? I don't know if it's working. Okay, I might have stopped. It keeps starting and stopping. Why? I really hope this is working. Okay, and I have no way to know. Okay, I'll continue and hope this is working. Okay, next. What do I think of Bernie Sanders? Do you think he goes too far or not far enough when saying, if we want peace, we must be able to say Netanyahu is not right all the time? I don't know if that question was for me or for Israelis in general. I agree. I love Bernie. I think Bernie's amazing. He's introducing what Canada has always had, this social democracy. And in terms of dealing with Netanyahu, yeah, he's right. Netanyahu doesn't really want peace. He's not interested. I mean, of course, everybody wants peace, but he's not really willing to give up anything. He doesn't want to, and he doesn't trust the Palestinians, which, from my videos, I kind of get why, but not that he watches my videos, but I understand why, but he's not the person. He's not a leader who cares about creating some kind of functioning relationship with Palestinians other than Israel as boss, and you guys have to listen. So, and I don't think that's a really fair thing to do. So, he was also the candidate who will take the PA to task. Okay, what are the differences between Ashkenazi Jews and Mizrahi Jews, in your opinion? Ah, love that question. Okay, so asked by Anaveni. I am Ashkenazi, which means my relatives, my grandparents actually, were mostly born in Europe, and had been in Europe for about, as far as we know, about 1,500 to 2,000 years. Mizrahi Jews is sort of a catch-all phrase, meaning Jews who are from the east, meaning east of Israel, even though something like Egypt is not actually east of here, but it doesn't matter. So everything from Morocco to Pakistan, anything that was under Islamic or is under Islamic control, it is considered Mizrahi Jews, although there are different groups, and a lot of them, some of them are related, some of them aren't. What are the differences? We just spent a lot of time in different cultures, so culturally they diverged in a lot of ways. Ashkenazi, well, there's also a difference between Ashkenazi Israelis and Canadian or American Jews, and Ashkenazi Jews in Canada and the United States. Huge differences. I find it very difficult to relate to Ashkenazi Jews here. They're much more uptight than Ashkenazi Jews in America or Canada. And Mizrahi Jews tend to be much warmer, more passionate, more emotional, obviously influenced by Arab culture. Most have, even 3-4 generations down the line, still have an Arab culture, absolutely. I don't think it's as strong as, I sort of see it on a spectrum of Arab cultures, with Muslims being sort of to one far side, and sort of the Christians and Druze, or Druze and then Christians, and then sort of Jews, and being sort of a little bit more towards the westernized part, and not just because of the influence of the Ashkenazi aspect of Israel, also people who had come directly from Morocco and Egypt and Iraq were tended, because they were minorities, saw things differently than, let's say, the Muslim majority. What else? How else are they different or the same? Because my entire experience in Israel was with Mizrahi Jews, because that was who I was with. So certain things stand out. For example, if they have a business or if they do something, they do it all together. Everything's in a group. Ashkenazi Jews is much more individualistic culture. So meaning people, if you open a store, you open a store. You don't open a store and all your brothers are invested in it and come and hang out and just and part of the business. Whereas here, over on the corner nearby, there's a Kurdish family who owns a kiosk, and there's 2 sisters and 2 brothers, and they each come and do different shifts. The mother comes and they hang out, and then they have a cousin, or maybe he's a brother, I'm not even sure who he is, and he just hangs out there all day, and they involve everyone in the family all the time in this family business. And it was apparently, years and years ago, the father's business, and they were all involved. That doesn't happen as much in Ashkenazi culture. You might get your child to be involved, but not necessarily all your brothers and cousins and everyone else. Much more food, much more interesting foods in Mizrahi cultures, personally, although there's a few things in Ashkenazi culture that I like. In some ways are the same. Ashkenazi and Mizrahi, all Jews have a sense of humor. We all love to laugh about ourselves, about everyone, about each other. We love always making jokes, and the jokes can be completely self-deprecating. That is more of an Ashkenazi thing than Mizrahi. There's like a red line that you cannot cross in Mizrahi culture about making jokes, let's say. Like you can't make jokes about some people in your family, that's maybe your parents, or how crazy your family is. You can kind of go there. Whereas with Ashkenazi Jews, you can totally do that. Other than that, I mean, we're talking like 2, 3, 4 generations later, most people are mixed in Israel. The majority of population is Mizrahi, it's not Ashkenazi. Most people, Israelis of my age and younger, or even 10 years older than me and obviously younger, are mixed and very integrated and don't see any differences between Ashkenazi and Mizrahi. That's sort of something that existed in the 70s, 50s, 60s, 70s here. But for people outside, they still find that interesting. That's why I do a lot of videos on it. Okay. This is next, I'm going on, sorry. This is a very good channel, really shows how Israelis and Palestinians think, and you bring a lot of interesting topics. Your channel is one of the, if not the best on YouTube, thank you. I hope I hope he can watch the live stream. Z Wonka, thank you, it's very nice. Bring more people to watch, that's what I kind of want to spread more. I want more people to watch these, because the reason, I mean, maybe someone will ask this, but one of the reasons I do this channel, it annoys me when I read in the media about Israelis or Palestinians and how shallow or partial it is. Because you have someone who comes from Canada or from Sweden or from, the Arab world, it doesn't really matter where it's from, and they come with a perception of what they think the story is here, and certain values from their home country, and everything that they show about Israelis and Palestinians is absolutely within that lens. And it annoys me that they miss out on how Israelis have a lens, and there's many lenses, obviously. Palestinians have lenses, and many lenses. And they really miss out on those individual stories about how people view things and see things for right and wrong. I mean, they might see, I've talked to people in my life, or, through this project, who I thought their views are crazy. But still, it's part of the fabric of this place. And if you want to understand what this is all about, you need to understand all those individual stories, and they kind of mesh together into one sort of collective story on each side. And I find that the media annoys me all the time. It doesn't matter which media, even some of the Israeli media annoys me, because they don't even understand themselves very well. They don't explain things very well they just assume everyone understands what they're talking about. And people don't really understand what this is all about. So, is there a link to follow because it's 2 p.m.? Oh, sorry. Oh, it was 2 minutes ago. Sorry. Well, I can't reply. I really hope this is going out. If not, then it's posted, I assume. I don't know what I'm doing technologically. I'm sorry. It is 7 p.m. London time. My question is, where have you hidden that great video about your family and its amazing roots across the world? The one with the brilliant soundtrack. I know what that is. I have to look it up. I can't remember the name of it. I'll post it there. But that was a fun one to do. Hello from Bosnia and Herzegovina. I am Orthodox Serb. I have in my country 2 parts of land, something similar like Israel and Palestine. Here, Muslims support Israel, and you can find that in video on YouTube. I think that football match Bosnia and Israel, but again, no Orthodox Serbian, not like Bosnia. We are a split country like Cyprus and in war. Orthodox versus Muslim. I was actually in Syria. I loved it. It's great. Okay, so I ask you, can you ask people what they think about Orthodox Serbs, Serbians, and Israeli people know about the Serbs and admire, because we admire Israelis and love them on the same side. That's very nice. Thank you, Miroslav. I can't pronounce your last name. I get this type of question all the time. Ask them about Pakistan, ask Israelis about Serbia, ask them about the endless peoples. Most Israelis don't really know very much about many other conflicts, and Palestinians don't know really much about anything unless it's something that's where Muslims are somehow suffering. So Israelis are just obsessed with what's going on with Jews, and Palestinians are obsessed with what's going on with Muslims, and they really don't know about anything else. At least that's my experience. But I will ask them. Slowly I'll get to them. I'll ask those kind of questions. I could be surprised. I'd love to take part, so I should put it in my calendar. Have you ever tried to get into Gaza? No, I have not tried. Well, I sort of tried. That's not really true. A guy said he can get me in through different organizations. I don't know if it would actually happen. I doubt it would, because for me to get into Gaza through Israel, I'd have to go through Israeli and Hamas security and be vetted before. It's not just I walk in. I have to have permission to go there, and Israelis would very quickly figure out I'm Israeli, so they're not going to let me in. And Hamas, I don't know what they would think, but they would probably wouldn't let me in without a very good reason. I mean, I'm not a reporter or working for, saying I have a YouTube channel, I don't think it's going to cut it. So, meaning I could go around to Egypt and, try that way. The truth is, I don't really want to go there. I'm afraid under Hamas that something will happen to me. The biggest fear is that people get paranoid in Palestinian society, and they're going to think that I'm a spy, or that I'm there to, I don't know, do something bad to them. I've heard, endless conspiracy theories about things that are very similar to that, and I would not, it's hard enough for me to go to the West Bank and not be afraid that someone is going to get very paranoid that I'm there to do something bad to them. So yeah, under Hamas in Gaza, I would be too freaked out. I would love to go see it. I was actually sort of in Gaza on my way to Egypt many, many years ago, like 20-something years ago, way before Oslo. And I kind of went through Rafah. But, I didn't really get to experience it. Although at the time, Israelis could actually just walk into Gaza, which sadly they cannot. What religion are you associated with? Do you have a religious affiliation? I am an atheist. I am a Jewish atheist. Yes, I know Muslims, you claim that doesn't exist. I say it does. I am from a long line of Jews. We haven't been believing or religious for at least 3 generations. Of course, my great-great-grandparents were ultra-Orthodox, the whole thing. You have pictures of that. Then in both Europe, and then when they moved to Canada, they became, you could call it cultural Jews, I don't know what you want to call it, where they lived in a Jewish community around Jews all the time. They went to synagogue, yet they would eat bacon or and drive on Shabbat, and maybe believe, maybe not believe. Some different people in my family have different opinions. Yet culturally, we still tend to gravitate towards other Jews. It's important for Jews to marry other Jews, be part of the tribe. Whether you believe or not has nothing to do with it. I was sent to Jewish schools, religious schools, and not because my parents wanted me to be religious, because they wanted me to have a cultural understanding. I didn't actually like the religious parts of it. That's what made me a complete atheist. I felt very oppressed by it, but culturally, historically, as a Jew, I feel very blessed, actually. I think it's a very interesting background. We have an interesting history. I'm very happy to be Jew. I love being Jewish. I also did a genetic test, and I know for proof, my blood, that my father's father's my paternal line was from Israel, this area. And I'm related to Lebanese and Palestinians in that way. And my maternal line, like most Jews, most Ashkenazi Jews, is from somewhere in Europe. So, which means we're a mix. And historically, people debate when that happened, but I know that at least on a genetically, I'm as much a part of this place as anyone else. So no religious affiliation, although I don't believe in any religion. To me, it's all like you're talking about UFOs and angels and the tooth fairy. No offense, but I respect everybody's beliefs, and if somebody has beliefs, as long as they don't hurt anybody, I have no issue with that. Yeah, and I know a lot of religious people, and absolutely terrific that they believe. I just personally don't, and you cannot convince me to believe. Trust me, everyone has tried. He's an atheist. Somebody says he's an atheist, but ethnically Jewish. If the world is ethnic, I don't think half the world is ethnically Jewish, as somebody says. Palestinians are ethnically Jewish. Yes, it's probably true. Not possible. Anyways, okay, next question. Noah. Why you don't go back to your country, Canada? Okay, so in my case, this is very easy. I could go back to Canada. I probably will go back to Canada at one point, because Canada, it's an easier existence. So I can make, I'll make a much better living. It's very difficult living in Israel, very difficult. I've gone through all my savings just living here and not living very well. Canada's easier. It's an easier place. It's a more enlightened place in a lot of ways. But I love living here. I love the insanity and the chaos, and I love that I'm around my people, which is nice. I mean, sometimes I want to be with other people's, obviously, but it's really nice to be with people, my people, you know, on a historical level. I love the weather and the land itself, the geography and how things, and the culture mostly, the culture of how things work here. That people are easygoing, and that people are not very judgmental. Interestingly enough, I mean, with all this religion going on and conflict, you'd think people would be a lot more judgmental. No, not so much. And if they are, it's sort of like it's very light. The people know how to have a good time. I personally go to sleep at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. But, you know, the fact that all around me, there are people out till 3 in the morning, I think it's great. The people are very tolerant. This is a very tolerant society. I know Israel gets a bad rap thinking it's not. It actually, I would say it's more tolerant than Canada. I know Canadians love to think they're tolerant. Underneath, there's, you know, some levels of racism or intolerance in certain ways, mostly around certain groups. Muslims, First Nations, for example. I find Israelis incredibly tolerant and incredibly curious. They might not, Islam or Muslims, they have a lot of issues because of the conflict, but they'll always be accepting and kind and helpful. Yeah, I just find them, you know, I find this to be an amazingly fun culture. So now what he's probably referring to is, because his name is Nawaf, he's probably thinking, you Jew, you don't belong here. Go back where you came from. You're from Poland and America. First of all, that's number one. It's proven genetically, it's proven historically. It kind of gets on my nerves that in the Arab world they've been lied to. They tell us we Jews from the Bible are not the same Jews. Somehow they disappeared, or they're Samaritans now, or they're ethnically Palestinians, and we Jews are all from Europe. It's not true. The majority of Israelis are actually from the Middle East, and can trace their background historically to this land. Mixing with other groups, absolutely, but we're from here, and this is not something because of Zionism. This is way before Zionism. My great-great-grandfather, before Zionism existed, came here, not just as a religious person, but as it was as his homeland, as his land. He came here to die. He was one of the few wealthy people at the time who could afford to come. He's buried somewhere in Jerusalem. Besides the point that the whole idea of Israelis going back where they came from, quotes, is ridiculous, because most people are mixed. So where do you go back to? Poland and Yemen? Like, who's going to go back anywhere? And they're third, fourth generation. It's like telling all Canadians, go back where you came from. Tell all Americans you go back where you came from. We're telling all Arabs, go back to Arabia. It's ridiculous. No, it's not going to happen. No one's going to listen. So why even keep this up? Let's see. And then people commented on his, because he's Jewish home. Yeah, God, fuck this place, fuck the Jews. Oh, the God who gave this land to the Jews, fuck you and fuck God. Okay, whatever. Anyways, okay, so I'm going to skip all this. I don't care. How do you deal with hateful comments towards your channel and yourself? I don't read the comments, ever. The comments. I'm doing it as an exception now, but I never read the comments. The accusations that you're biased to one side, that from the anti-Israel side, and so, oh, that's very funny. And then I'm biased to one side, usually accusations from the anti-Israel side, but sometimes from the pro-Israel side too. Because I get shit mostly from the Palestinian side, that I'm more anti-Palestinian. and sometimes from the Jewish side, no, Israelis don't really care, that I'm anti-Israel. Do you just ignore them? Yeah, basically. Or do they annoy me? Sometimes it annoys me. People don't really get what I'm doing, so they read the title of the video. That's what I believe. There's nothing to do with what I believe. I'm asking questions you guys ask, and I'm asking them in the way that they are thought of. So I just released today, people got mad at me, which kind of don't you agree that Islam is more peaceful than Zionism? And I found it funny that actually a bunch of Jews from other places got really upset at me about that. And I thought, well, that's how it's framed in the Arab world, that Zionism is evil and bad, and Islam is a peaceful religion. That's the way I'm presenting it. I ask. I think there's no question you can't ask. I believe that if someone's in this question, they don't have to answer. And truthfully, I want someone to answer. And people did. People said, excuse me, under Islam, my grandparents or me, there was one guy who said he was treated really badly by Muslims. And and this happened all over the Islamic world. The Islamic world was much better than in the Christian world, but still, this idea that under Islam the Jews had this wonderful life is not true. At least it's not true according to the people who were there. Not because it's my opinion. I mean, it's historically shown. You can read lots of books about it, but I'm talking about the people who actually either were there, or if they're left, or people who remember from their parents and grandparents what they were told about living in. So that's why I ask it that way. I want to hear, what do they have to say? And then, someone could say, yeah, it was really great under Islam. Terrific. Positive is great. I have no problem with it. But it's, I asked the question because the guy from Bahrain, I can't even remember, somewhere in the Gulf, this is what he was told, although he's probably never met a Jew. It's not true. It's just something that they, in the Arab world, the Muslim world, tell each other to feel, so they can feel somehow, I don't know what, superior or better, or that they're clean. Because in conflict, everyone wants to feel like they're good and the other is bad. Next. And what about the occasional comment that attacks you or your sexuality? Actually, I didn't know that anybody was doing that. Screw them, what do I care? I usually, actually no, a couple of times on Facebook, people have made, and I usually use my being gay against them, saying, oh, you look really cute and sexy. I'm for mostly Arab men, come on. Straight men. So sometimes they annoy me. Every so often I do get a hate mail with really which really says more about the person who's sending it than it does about me. But yeah, certainly, for sure, it hurts a little bit. Because what am I going to do? Somebody asks, he's gay. Yes, I'm gay. Attack because some people think he is closeted straight man. Oh, that's hilarious. No, I'm not closeted. Very. Thank you very much for your channel. Someone else, Reem Abdul Majid, very nice. Thank you, Reem. I always appreciate it when somebody who is, well, it's a Muslim name, but obviously Arab. I think it's great. My question is, why did you decide to start the Ask Project, and what's contributed to this conflict? Okay, I'll start with the second part. What contributed to wanting to know about this? I lived here. I came here actually because I married an Israeli man. Actually, no, I came here the first time to study, and then I kind of fell in love with the chaos and the insanity of this place. I met an Israeli guy, and we were together for 20 years. But I didn't really investigate much about the conflict, although I found the political stuff I found kind of interesting. I think I went to the West Bank once or twice, but I barely spoke to Palestinians. I kind of went to Bethlehem just to see what it was about, but I didn't really ask questions. And then I went to study conflict studies, so conflict theory. Why is it? Because I wanted to understand what it is that I experienced, even though I barely experienced anything at that time, but even living within Israeli society, and the way people speak in slogans, or the way people sort of demonize anything to do with Islam or Arabs, to a certain extent. They don't do it so overtly. It's sort of, it's a little bit under the layered in a certain sense because they don't want to feel racist. But it's there, and I wanted to understand what all those dynamics were. So then I was in Canada at this point, so I did my master's, and then we came back. So I decided to see what is this conflict really all about. Is it according to, people say it's religion, some people say it's nationalism, some people say it's land and it's theft, and it's, everyone has their own way of focusing on the conflict. So I wanted to know. So I joined all these peace groups and did all kinds of activities and found ways to meet Palestinians, because I already knew kind of what Israelis thought. Of course, for the religious, but pretty much everybody secular on the coast, which is most people. So I wanted to know. And then I kind of figured out I'm not such a big humanitarian as not that I thought I was, but a lot of people who work in these pieces, they're very not judgmental, and I found I am a little bit judgmental. I mean, for everybody, and it's kind of equal in my judgment towards how everybody is thinking about this. And I found that you sort of take that very soft approach, or at least the people who work in it tend to take that very soft approach, and that wasn't me. So I was looking for my way of, what can I do in all this? And as a way to learn. And then somebody mentioned something about, what are you going to go do, interview everybody? Because back up. This woman, who was actually Canadian, was complaining that all Israelis are racist. And I said, my experience is there's levels of racism, absolutely. But I don't think they're not as racist as you think they are. I think you're wrong. And she said, well, what are you going to do, go and interview everybody? And I thought, wow, that's a really good idea. What if I took my video camera and sort of asked them questions? And I know Israelis, the one thing I do know about Israelis is you can ask them questions, whether it's on camera or off camera. They just say whatever they're thinking. They're not very guarded. Comparatively, I mean, obviously there are some, but comparatively, they will just say whatever they're thinking. So I figured, okay, this is a great way of doing it. So I walked around the neighborhood and asked, people I knew, the guy who sells vegetables, and the guy in the store who I buy stuff from, and and I translated as I sort of went along. And then when I put them together, I saw 6 or 7 people, how they think about whatever the issue is. I thought, wow, that's really powerful to show sort of a cross-section of society. It really gives you a really good sense of what, instead of the fringe, which everyone focuses on the right and the left, and these fringe people who don't represent anything but themselves, this is just showing what kind of people think and the complexity of it. So I started doing that, and then I said, let's go to the West Bank. I want to do that. So I asked a Palestinian friend of mine and translate. Luckily, I found a couple of people who also spoke some English, and that's how it started. And then, slowly, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea. I'm not good with technology or editing, or, as you can see, the camera work, half the time it's too dark, or you can't see the person because I'm not paying attention. I'm paying attention to what I'm going to ask next. Yeah, that's how it started. And on the Palestinian side, I found different dynamics. And on the one hand, people are incredibly, according to a Palestinian friend of mine, they're not honest at all, but I thought they were very honest in how much anger and hate they have. Because it's something even in Israel we sort of hear about, but unless you're presented with it, you don't think it's gonna. But I'd rather know the truth. I'd rather know what people really think. Now I have Palestinian friends who say they're full of shit. Like, they're telling you this because it sounds good to them. I don't know. It's not my culture. I can't tell. I'm looking for more ways to sort of dig deeper into that area. So yeah, I'll just keep doing this because I really love doing it, and it's really interesting to learn what people think. What is your opinion of the U.S. involvement in the area, and why? Okay, from Hus Elite, maybe that's Hussein. I don't know. I think of this in different ways. So on the one hand, it's really nice to have either support. For example, the U.S. supports Israel They also support Palestine, by the way. Most of the West Bank economy is supported by US aid and the European Union. So they really should be thanking those people, because everything with infrastructure is billions of dollars are going into that. At the same time, I really want them to get out of this. I don't care about the financial support, couldn't care less. I don't think $3 billion, which is just for weapons, by the way, which we buy from the Americans, I don't think it's going to make any dent not getting that money in any way. I think sometimes I think their involvement, or anybody's involvement in this conflict, is hurting us. I think everyone sort of acts like little babies, either being forced to the table or running to that person and saying, protect us. I think Israelis and Palestinians have to sit and talk and negotiate. And I know Palestinians say, oh, we've been doing that for 20 years. Well, you haven't been doing it very well. I know what happens in those rooms because I happen to work at the university, and I know people who are in those rooms. And the stories that I hear about both Israelis and Palestinians negotiating are shocking. How unprepared anybody was, how little knowledge they have of each other. So this whole idea that we've been negotiating for 20 years and look what we got, bullshit. I think they're excuses. They're excuses not to deal with each other. Palestinians don't want to deal with Israelis because they don't think Israelis are from here, and they want them to go away, and it's wishful thinking. And Israelis they don't think Palestinians aren't from here, but they want them to go away as well, and hoping they just will. I think both sides are acting like children, and I really wish they could just get into a room and go through all the. They're not going to agree. We're not going to agree for generations. Our cultures are too different. But at least you'll be having that talk instead of, going to France and going to Germany and going back and forth and playing these games of yes, I'm interested in peace. No, I'm not interested in peace. I'm not a fan of that. I just wish we figure out a way to deal with each other and get all these other people out of the equation. I think you need to be more professional. You need to ask everyone exactly the same question without any questions afterwards. 2 reasons for that. First of all, I have a terrible memory. So I agree. Sometimes I'm asking the question and I'm thinking, shit, it's been like a month since I last asked it, because that happens. Did I ask it the same way? I'm always nervous about that. So that I apologize for. It happens. Asking a follow-up question, though, which is different each time, is on purpose. I put myself, honestly, I'm thinking about the person who asked the question, about other people who think in the same way, and I'm thinking, what would they ask as a follow-up question? It can come from different directions. Like sometimes it's just based on mood or whatever, but it's to get more information. Because people tend to, if I ask the same question exactly the same way, let's say both people's, first of all, most people might define the words that I'm using differently. And sometimes by asking a follow-up question, you get to that, you figure that out, or I figure that out. And other times, it's just to get more information, or it's maybe to see if you change one condition, change the entire story. Will it change the entire narrative? So I know I do that on purpose, and I'm going to continue doing that, even though Zeev Rosenblatt doesn't like it. Don't show you asking, okay, just show it in the frame. Oh, so don't show me asking the question, just show it in the frame with a question or text at the beginning. Now, I also do that on purpose, and maybe that's something I should cut out, but that's more because people get really paranoid thinking that they didn't ask the same question, that what somebody is answering is a different question, because people love to claim that I'm somehow finding people that they don't, because they don't like the answers, that are the wrong people. And this is totally random. I mean, every so often I throw in a friend of mine or something, or someone I know, but it's only for one question. It's only to sort of finish it off. But 98% of the people in the videos are totally random. And I usually ask the interpreters, or I just ask the person I'm with, you choose them, because I want it to be completely random. So I could ask the question and then cut that part out. I know it adds a lot. I just, I'm thinking that people get really paranoid that I'm doing this somehow with an agenda. I mean, at least an agenda in that sense of, that I'm lying to them, that I'm not. So that's why. And then jump from person to person. Who blurred face between? Okay, yeah, put it in the text. Okay, he's just giving me instructions what to do. So yeah, that's the reason. Yeah, I could technically probably get rid of that part, but I'm afraid of doing that. That's really the issue. I get a lot of people who get very paranoid, and then I feel like I've wasted all all that time when people are thinking, oh, you're lying to us, you have an agenda, this was all a lie, you cut stuff. I cut nothing out. I swear to everybody. I have never cut anything. The only time I did cut something out is someone said something anti-Muslim. I'm not going to create violence by somebody taking that small part, but the rest of it is in. I just said he said something anti-Islamic, and then the rest of it of me and him explaining himself was in it. I just don't want to be responsible for anybody dying. Next question. In religion? No. Have you truly read about Islam? If so, what are your views about it? I've read the Quran. I don't understand it. I've read the Bible, actually in Hebrew and in English a couple of times. Little easier to understand. Sorry, the Hebrew Bible, the Torah. Little easier to understand. Although there's as I was going through, I was making notes, thinking this is a contradiction. This is a double story. Why is this here? Why, what are people talking about? The New Testament I tried. I found it really dull. Sorry, I don't like to read. The Quran I read. I tried reading it from beginning to end. Obviously, English translation. I found it very confusing. I didn't understand what the hell it wants to say. When somebody makes a claim about the Quran, so then I go back and try to look for that in it and try to understand, verse by verse. That's about it. But I cannot. My dog is barking. But I cannot claim I have any total understanding other than what I've been told. And I'm not a person who would in any way any understanding. What are my views about? I've read about. I know Islam from people who know Islam. What are my views about it? I'm not a religious person. It's all like the tooth fairy to me. It means it really is. I do not understand why anyone has a need to believe in a higher power other than death. I get it. Death is scary. All the rest, all these rules. I'm a very moral person. I treat people very nicely. I always try to be good to people. I don't understand why anyone needs a book for that. I don't get it. The difference, actually, no, it's the same in Orthodox Judaism and in Islam, is that it's a brainwash. It's all religion. It's a brainwashing technique to make you feel you have to listen to that person and what they have to say, whoever it is. I mean, it's, some religious head. And that part kind of annoys me, actually. So yeah, it annoys me when I'm talking to religious Jews or Muslims. Most in the West Bank, pretty much everyone just quotes, either the Quran or the Sunnah, and they just, almost blindly just quoting things because they were told, and they're told that's the only truth and that's all there is, and that kind of annoys me. I can say, what do I care if it has to do with this and this holiday and whether you fast or you don't fast or stuff that has no impact on me at all. But then every so often it gets to something, it does have an impact, whether because I'm a Jew or because I'm gay or because I don't believe. And then it does impact me. And in Judaism, they don't really have, I'm not going to be beaten up or killed. But in Islam, yeah, I would be. So yeah, I have a problem with that. I really do. And I have a problem with anybody, whether it's a woman being told she has to wear this. I have no problem with the hijab. I'm surrounded by hijabis all day. I live near Jaffa and at the university. I have no issue with anyone wearing anything. I don't care. Someone can walk around naked and they can also wear a total covering. Couldn't care less. I just don't like the idea of that there are roles and people are forcing other people to wear certain things, whether it's aggressively by telling them they have to, or subtly by saying, by being a good Muslim or being a good Jew, this is what you wear, and this is what you do, and this is how you think. I don't like that. I really don't. I don't like that. I think you can honestly be a good person without having any of that. And the proof is, most people I know are atheists, and they're wonderful people who do good and give to charity and do really nice things for people. And I know a lot of religious people, Jews and Muslims and Christians, who are shitty people, really shitty people. And so hiding behind it gets on my nerves. Okay, so I won't go on with that. My question is, have you ever heard a European anti-Israeli or otherwise be shocked by anti-Semitism and pro-genocide violence answers by Palestinians on your videos? I don't know. That's another, I don't know, actually. I mean, somebody who's really that anti-Israel, I don't think they're, no, I don't know. I don't know if it's ever convinced anybody, meaning watching the opposite views, and if it had any effect, I have no clue. I know people who didn't come anti-Israel, like who weren't anti-Israel, but still didn't believe that Palestinians had such violent, or so much rage and anger towards Israelis and wanted violence to happen to them, or people who were the opposite. Anyways, the Jews would say that and whatever. And so, yes, I've seen them sort of go, whoa, really? This is like a real thing. But not to the extent where they were, let's say, anti-Israel or anti-Palestinian and they encountered the other, something that really shocked them. No. But it would be really great to get a bunch of those people in a room and show them a video and just videotape what they think. I want to do that to Israelis. I really want to bring them in a room and show them. It's hard because I'm going to show them something that's going to kind of confirm what they already thought. Palestinians saying really hateful things about them. It'd be nice to get one where Palestinians said something nice. That'd be great, and see what effect that has. Or the opposite, a group of Palestinians with Israelis saying nice things. There's not a lot of those videos, but there's some. And if that had any effect, I don't know. But it would be really interesting to see. Tired. Trying to interview. Some things that I should ask. Would you personally live under Palestinian state rule? I think they're asking me, would you personally live under Palestinian state ruling? So one of the things I actually want to do is go live in Palestinian areas, learn Arabic, and I got to say, part of it is because I see why it's difficult to live there. I just think the hysteria about the suffering is a little exaggerated. And look, I'm only there for days at a time, right? So I'm not living as a Palestinian. So part of me wants to go there, and part of me wants to see, is it true? Is it really that horrible? I personally think, but it's because I'm coming from Canadian mentality, right? So the things that are horrible to me, the idea that there's no infrastructure from city to city, that to me is the most annoying thing. And it's not, I mean, I'm sure I could figure out how to blame Israel and Palestinians equally on that, because of checkpoints, as most Palestinians think it is. Because I've hardly ever encountered a checkpoint while in the West Bank. When going out the West Bank, of course, but in the West Bank, it's very rarely. I think I've seen it twice, 3 times total, in 5 years. But it would be interesting. I would like to try to live there for like 6 months or a year, to see if I would still have the same opinions. Maybe not. Maybe I would be completely convinced that yeah, it's really it's horrible. There are other things which I think. I mean, if anybody's going to take this and then say, you see, it's not so horrible there. Keeping people 40 years stateless and in limbo, I think is cruel. I think it's very, very cruel, and I think it's cruel on behalf of both Israeli policy, and who either should have given, in '67, given it to Jordan and said, we don't want these people, or made them citizens, so at least they would have, it wouldn't be, they would have rights, the same rights as everyone else. And I blame Palestinians for in the same way, meaning I don't see anybody saying, or I see very few people saying, yes, I'm very willing to compromise and sit at a table with you to figure this out. Most people are just, it's pride, and they are angry and furious, and they just think Israel's going to go away. And they figure they'll wait another 100 years. And I think everyone is being childish. And so, what was my point here? I'm getting tired, I don't remember. So yes, I would live there. I don't think it would, obviously things would annoy me. Under Palestinian state rule, meaning that so this religious way of Islam is so much a fabric of the society, it would annoy me. Not because I'm Jewish, because I don't believe. I'm an atheist. Why would I always have to feel that, you know, everything is taboo, what I'm allowed to do, what I'm not allowed to do? I'm getting a call. I don't know from what I'm allowed to, it would be the same thing if I was living in an ultra-Orthodox neighborhood. It'd be very interesting to live in an ultra-Orthodox neighborhood, but it would annoy me at a certain point because I like my freedoms. Okay, next. Doesn't do it often. Do you think that Israel and the Gulf countries are going to have peace eventually? I hope so. I hope there's peace with everybody. I think all these countries and their ridiculous rules and pride about not making peace should all have peace with each other. What is your own opinion on the construction of settlements in the West Bank? Is it feasible to turn to 67 borders? Do ever more settlements hinder the peace process? Okay, well, I'm getting tired, so I think this is going to be the last question. So one of the things I'm actually trying to do is trying to raise money to do an extended version of videos on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict around certain issues, because what annoys me most about this is the misinformation that's out there based on people who have specific goals. They have certain agendas, and it annoys me because, for example, or just the idea of the 67 borders. The settlement areas, the actual places where people live, is about 2 to 3% of the West Bank. That Israel controls is 60%, but I'm saying, like, of the actual where the settlements are, there's only 3% of the land, including actually land, not just the houses. I mean, all the land that they expand on, that you hear about, we'll get to in a second. So in terms of a two-state solution, it's absolutely possible to have a two-state solution. It's difficult because they have these little sort of Swiss cheese areas, but you could create borders that do this and that and whatever. You can, absolutely. And you're not cutting off the whole West Bank. It's nonsense. Jerusalem is cut off, and plus I personally understand exactly what they're talking about Jerusalem. I think Jerusalem is actually one of the only areas where they have specifically tried to make it a solid Israeli bloc sort of thing. There are ways around this as well. So this whole idea of the two-state solution is dead, blah, blah, blah. There's no difference in 1994 between the settlements where they are, technically. I don't think there are any new settlements in 1994 from what I can remember. Compared to today, there's a lot more people in the settlements, and there are more houses in the settlements, but the same land, that 3% I'm talking about, it's the same 3%, whether it was 1994 or today. And this is part of what I would like to get into. Not that I'm a two-state solution big believer. I actually don't think it's going to work. It doesn't matter. Point is, all these people who claim this won't work and that won't work, and then it's because they have an agenda, and it bugs me. So it's technically feasible. So is a one-state technically feasible. I don't like that either. It's not going to work. There's a problem with it, and I have no solution, by the way. If anyone's going to ask me, I have no idea. Nothing is going to work just because we're so different and there's so much paranoia and fear and anger and hate. It's not going to work. But about what is my actual opinion about the West Bank settlements? I think it was a mistake from the beginning. I think it was ridiculous how the leadership at the time had no foresight to see that this would be this, even if you didn't want a Palestinian state, just the idea of controlling, I don't know the number then, but it was in the hundreds of thousands, and with Gaza must have been 1 million plus, of controlling these people and thinking, I assume this is what they were thinking, that eventually it'd be like Arab Israelis and they would just, you know, give in and agree to live under Israel. Why they thought this was a good idea, I do not understand. I don't understand why people go live there. I've met lots of settlers. They're actually very lovely people. I have to say, that surprised me. I have not met many who I would consider crazy. I've met a few, but not many. Most of them are quite rational, quite compassionate towards their Palestinian neighbors. They're not what I expected at all. But I still think that I get what if Jews wanted a state because they felt that they had nowhere safe to be, I understand this is not what Palestinians want, but in the same, I have to grant that to Palestinians in the same way. Meaning, if I'm going to believe that Jews have to have a place, obviously Palestinians have to have a place too. And I think it's really unfair to, it's almost greedy to be, well, we have, even though we have Israel and we have the settlements and it's all going to be ours, and yes, they can live there. I know nobody says they can't live there. This is another misinformation thing, but they have to be under our control and all this stuff. I think it's a recipe for disaster. I don't agree with it, but it exists, and there's nothing I can do. So all I can do is be nice to people who are settlers, be nice to people who are Palestinians, and hope at some point the groups will figure out some way to get along. Now, in terms of creating a 67, can you go to the 67 borders? Not exactly. Obviously, you have to carve out these areas. I think it would be a waste of billions of dollars. I mean, that's what I'm thinking of. If you can ever come here and just see these towns, it's a lot of money. It's huge amounts of money, plus the people who believe they're going to be there forever, even though I think it's ridiculous. It seems more logical to me to just redraw the map and give Palestinians, let's say, areas of Israel, everybody living, or Gaza. Gaza needs a lot more room. I know Gaza is not the densest place in the world. It really isn't. Macau is, or Hong Kong is, but it doesn't really matter. They need more room, absolutely. So yeah, there's lots of things that could be done. Do ever more settlements hinder the peace process? There aren't ever more settlements. There are more people in the settlements. There's more building in those existing settlements. Does it hinder the peace process? Yes, it absolutely does. Because Palestinians, even though I think it's ridiculous, settlements are ridiculous from the Jewish perspective. They blur the lines of where we have no borders. They blur the lines of what's ours, what's theirs, that whole thing. From the Palestinian perspective, it's a slap in the face. It's a constant reminder of humiliation, of being conquered, of feeling invaded, because they have in their mind this idea they're invaded, we're colonizers. This is further proof, I'm putting in quotes because it's not colonization. If anything, actually the West Bank is where the Jews are from, but whatever. People get mad at me also because of that, because they're going to say, how dare I give up biblical Israel? Yeah, I prefer to just have a state, thank you. I don't want all the craziness. I have no problem if you guys live there, but I feel it's just greedy what goes on. This idea that we can only we control, and they have no control. And even though I don't think they're acting very adult, Palestinians, I mean, still, as a value, I can absolutely appreciate why they would want abnormal lives. So these hinder the peace process, absolutely, but at the same time, look past all these ridiculous slogans of the two-state solution is dead, or it's impossible, or the settlements have grown and grown and grown. Are there more settlements? It's not true. Half the stuff is exaggerated because everybody's hyper-emotional. So look past that stuff and try to help people come towards ways that we can either coexist, or we have to separate for a while until we can coexist. Or I don't know. I have no answers for you. I'm tired. It's 10 o'clock, and I think that's enough. So maybe I'll do this again if anyone actually watched this. So I thank everybody. Oh, I don't even know if I'm under here. Again, I might be totally out of the picture. Again, I thank everybody for, I hope you enjoyed. And I feel no idea if this even worked. It's offline.